The end of dollar dominance isn't a fantasy. It's happening right now. China and Russia already trade almost entirely without it. India is quietly joining in, and the global balance of power is tilting. What does this mean for your money, your country, and the future of the world economy? China and India endgame. For the US dollar, the secret plan to topple the US dollar. Behind closed doors, China and Russia have built a new financial system to bypass American control, already settling over 90% of their trade in their own currencies. This is the inside story of their economic rebellion and the geopolitical fallout that could follow. But this isn't just about geopolitics. Stick with me, and you'll see the dominoes China and India have lined up, which one's already tipping, and how it could hit your savings right in the kneecaps. Section 1. Why the dollar still reigns. For now, let's get the obvious out of the way. The dollar is the world's lingua franca. Oil, wheat, microchips, price tags all read USD. That nifty perk, nicknamed the exorbitant privilege, lets Washington print IOUs the rest of us gladly stash in our vaults. Want to slap sanctions on a troublemaker? Freeze its dollar accounts before breakfast. Need cheap borrowing? Sell treasuries at basement rates because, frankly, no one has a better parking spot for spare cash. The system hummed along just fine, so long as everyone stayed on the same team. Section 2. Enter the triangular pincer. China has a grudge. India has a grudge. Russia has a grudge the size of Siberia. Different beefs, same weak spot. SWIFT. When Russia got booted off the messaging network, dollars turned from lubricant to handcuffs overnight. Beijing watched, took copious notes, and rang up the People's Bank. India, stuck between cheap Russian oil and the threat of the US side-eye, decided it couldn't afford to sit out the dance. Three giants, one workaround: build a parallel highway. Section 3. The Yuan-Ruble Playbook. Look at last year's scorecard. China and Russia shuffled $240 billion in goods and services across the border. Over 90% of those invoices were settled in yuan or ruble, zipping through Russia's SPFS and China's CIPs. Think of them as SWIFT's rebellious younger cousins. Moscow now holds more yuan than euros, a plot twist no one saw coming in 2019. Beijing sweetened the pot with gold for yuan swaps. Russian banks hand over bullion at sundown. Wake up with liquid yuan at sunrise. No dollars, no correspondent banks, no sanctions drama. Section 4. India's balancing act. India isn't trashing the dollar, it's buying insurance. When Washington slapped surprise tariffs on Indian steel in early 2025, New Delhi sped up talks to settle more Russian and Iranian oil in rupees. UPI, India's lightning-fast retail payments network, is now exploring handshakes with Russia's faster payment system. Proof of concept? 1 million barrels of Urals crude paid straight from an Indian refiner's account to a Russian bank's node. 6 seconds, a sub-penny fee, no SWIFT, and no greenback middleman. Section 5. BRICS Bridge. The quiet coup. Forget the hype about a single BRICS currency. That's still science fiction. What's real is the project known as BRICS Bridge, a proposed blockchain ledger that would clear cross-border deals without a single dollar changing pockets. Picture a multi-currency subway pass. Swipe yuan in Shanghai. Step off in Mumbai with rupees, never fumbling for dollars at the turnstile. It's a direct challenge to the dollar-based settlement system, and with Saudi Arabia and the UAE already on board with BRICS, the world's top oil spigots are eyeing the exit ramp. Section 6. Gold. The silent arbitrage central banks hoovered up 1,037 tons of gold in 2023, the second highest haul on record. China was the biggest buyer, pocketing 225 tons, while India added 34 tons. Russia never stopped stacking its reserves since 2014. The reason? Gold is the one asset that speaks every dialect, including sanctions proof. When trust in paper wobbles, bullion is the universal translator. The more yellow metal these banks have on their balance sheets, the less they need dollar liquidity to keep trade humming. Section 7. What happens to you and me? Here's where it gets personal. If the dollar's slice of global reserves shrinks from today's 58% to, say, 45%, import prices in the U.S. could jump before the Fed finishes its morning coffee. A softer dollar means pricier gas, more expensive iPhones, and bondholders demanding juicier yields. For emerging markets, the flip side is tempting. Borrow in their own currency, buy oil at a markdown, and tell the sanctions office to take a ticket. The risk? If the shift turns messy, global trade could seize like rush hour when the traffic lights fail. That's why the alliance is moving slowly, steadily, and very, very quietly. Section 8. The one thing still holding it all together. Here it as the kicker. Every shiny new payment rail still prices oil against benchmarks quoted in, you guessed it, dollars. Traders 1T fully buy into a yuan or rupee-denominated crude contract until it feels as rock-solid as a West Texas intermediate quote. But rumor has it that Saudi Aramco has already filed the paperwork for a yuan-based oil contract on the Shanghai Exchange, just waiting for the right geopolitical weather. If you're still here, you're probably wondering what to do with this info. I'm no financial guru, but sticking your head in the sand seems like a lousy plan. Dig into yuan-denominated assets, trace rupee trade corridors, and keep an eye on central bank digital currencies. Hit subscribe and ring the bell. Next week we'll unpack which U.S. sectors get bruised first when the dollar drops below the 50% reserve mark. Drop them in the comments. I read everyone. The dollar isn't going to vaporize tomorrow, but the throne's legs are wobbling. China and India aren't charging at the gates. They're swapping out the castle's bricks while the night watch snores. When historians crack open their laptops years from now, 2024 will look like the year dollar dominance quietly crested the hill. The only remaining question is whether the rest of the U.S. notices before the BRICS alliance hits the ground of the American dollar economy. What are your thoughts about this video? Write in the comments below. Thanks for watching.